Welcome to Arts Talk TV, supporting the arts community and giving it a voice. Hi, I'm Karina Lawrence and welcome to Arts Talk TV. We're here at the Coolangatta Sands Alley Bar, which is a great venue that offers live music and fantastic food located on the corner of Coolangatta's beautiful beachfront. Our next guest on the show is one of Australia's most respected performers and creative artists. Please welcome the phenomenal Kate Wormald. Thank you so much for joining us here on the show, Kate.
Thank you for having me. It's a true pleasure.
It's such a privilege. You have had such an extensive experience in the creative arts industry. Really, the most sought after Australian dancer.
Thank you.
Truth. And later, your passion for movement allowed you to step out of the spotlight of a performer on the stage into choreography and casting and creative direction.
I'm extremely blessed to have started as a dancer, and I think it's probably been quite a slow journey into the other side. I guess I put off a little longer than some people. It wasn't a natural progression because I just didn't want to get off the stage, basically.
Now, as an artist, Kate, you've worked on some phenomenal credits. You've worked with really the world's best choreographers and directors and music stars.
Yeah.
Some of which George Miller, Baz Luhrmann, Michael Gracie, Keisha, Robin Williams, Fifth Harmony, Kelly Rowland, Ricky Martin, Jennifer Hudson, Delta Goodrem, Macy Gray, The Squared Division, Wade Robson, David Atkins, Kelly Abbey, and Jason Gilkison. Like, everybody who is anybody, you've worked with them. Like, does that just fill your heart with absolute joy?
100%. That's the exact word I would have used, joy. It's a difficult industry to survive, longevity. I count myself extremely lucky, whilst I know it's not all on luck. I have had a wonderful path, and I've been led by some incredible mentors as well. I think having a different array through, there's musical theatre there, there's pop there, there's film there, TV. It's been, I've just been trained to be able to cover a lot of those different elements.
Versatile.
Yeah.
And do you think that's important for up-and-coming students? Is I know my era was, if they ask you to juggle fire, do it.
Yeah,
so you can and figure it out later.
Yeah, definitely. I was trained in all styles, and I think that was a big thing in my training. That's one of the first things I'll say to any young dancers now is you have to do everything. And I think it's become more of a skill now that they need because I think the work's slightly changed over the time, and maybe, you can't just be a musical theatre person, you need to be able to cover everything. So
I think too, from the dancing side of things that I've noticed in the industry is there is so much emphasis on doing all your different styles, including acrobatic, aerialist. Your versatility is obviously from being a performer, but then having that creativity behind you to excel in other areas, outside of dance with creative direction and film and television. So things like acting, singing is another niche for them to develop if that becomes their passion.
Yeah, look, I say do everything. Find the things you're really, really great at.
Yeah.
Obviously, you're probably going to be pushing those. Work on the things that you're not really good at, because they're probably the things you're going to need.
Yeah.
I think I knew exactly where I fit in, which was another thing that I try and tell the young dancers, that the person next to you, once you first walk in the door for an audition, you or them may be not what they looking for at all. You may not get it purely just walking in the door. If you walk in the best you can possibly be as an artist, you walk out with your head held high. You may have had the wrong hair color, you might be the wrong height. That's all out of your control. What's in your control is walking in your absolute best shape, trained. I've done the extra work. If they ask you to put on tap shoes for the afternoon call, you can put them on, So it's knowing you've covered all the bases and knowing what you can really strive for, but also definitely diversifying, because a Cirque show might come up in 3 years' time and you go, actually, I'd done silks, I've trained in something else. So you're really giving yourself just more opportunity in your career.
And do you feel that if you are the right fit and you show the versatility and maybe not necessarily the expertise, that if a producer or a director, if they really want you and they can see that you're open and willing and able, they'll help you excel in maybe the areas where you're lacking as well?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think even if you end up getting onto a job and there's skills in the show that you don't have or you don't necessarily need to have, you know, why not spend your days off or pre-show with those artists that are in the show and try and learn new skills.
Well, there's a beautiful quote here. It was contributed by George Miller, which I'd like to share with the audience. And it says, no matter how arduous or stressful the work became, she, Kate, was without fail clear-eyed, focused and inspirational. Somehow around Kate, everything seemed relaxed, disciplined and efficient. She has that uncommon ability to leap from the most granular detail to the big picture with fluidity.
It's lovely.
It is.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful thing to share because it showcases clearly your talent, your professionalism, but also your beautiful character.
That's lovely.
You know,
Thank you.
so you were voted Australia's favourite female dancer on So You Think You Can Dance
Season one, yes.
Do you feel like that was really your bouncing board with opportunity?
That was probably one of the biggest risks I've ever taken. I say the greatest risk is the greatest reward, and there's been many moments in my life that I've risked that, like moving back to the Gold Coast after 22 years. Taking So You Think You Can Dance, I was the oldest contestant probably to ever live. But it was a huge risk for me because I'd worked a lot in Australia and I'd already lived in the UK and worked over there, and when this came up I remember being really like, should I do it, should I not? I was nearly 28, so most would say you're coming to the mature end of your dance career, but for me I was about to sort of endure 3 months of intense physical dance and learning and putting yourself on the line in front of the entire Australian population. What I loved so much about it is I met people and got to work with people I would never have crossed paths, because even though I don't put myself in a jazz box, because I've been able to, you know, train in a lot of styles. Someone like, for example, Jason Gilkison, after that series, I ended up assisting him for the next 5 years and on lots of other jobs as well as So You Think You Can Dance, and he just taught me so much, and that's a master of his world that I would never have crossed into. So those kind of things, like it kept going. Once the show was well and truly over, I got to continue with meeting these incredible people in their world. Just an eye-opening, incredible experience.
So your background history, training you mentioned, when do you feel that you got a taste for performing and wanting to pursue that as a career in the industry?
Well, I know all I've ever wanted to do is dance. My mum and dad will tell you that. From a very young age, I've just had my blinkers on. That's all I've ever wanted to do. And my first professional job was when I was 13, and it was the Batman Forever premiere for William Forsyth. He flew up from Sydney and did a huge audition looking for a lot of dancers. I landed that, and that just gave me this incredible sense of performing and just really consolidated what I wanted to do.
So your film and television credits: Happy Feet 2, Dora and the Lost City of Gold, the choreographer for the Netflix series The End, as well as ABC's Harrow, TV Week Logie Awards, The Voice, Dancing with the Stars, So You Think You Can Dance, X Factor and Dance Boss, Australia's Got Talent, the ARIA Awards, even the Nickelodeon Kids' Choice Awards. Yeah. You've been part of that. Yeah,
it's been amazing. All the jobs you've named there, I've had different roles on all of them, whether it's been as a dancer, dance captain, assistant to the choreographer. Some of those shows I've assisted the creative directors, or if creative directors overseas, they'll call me to put everything in place. I think Happy Feet was a huge learning curve and turning point for me as well, working on number 1 for 2.5 years under George and Kelly Abbey. And then it came around number 2, which was many years later, but I ended up going and doing all the dance research, getting the choreographer Wade Robson to come over and helping cast all the dancers and performers, and then ended up being one of the choreographers along with Dean Perry as well. So it's been a gift, that entire process, and learning how the technology was changing before our eyes, and we became a real family on number 1 and number 2, but also such a large job, as in it went over a long time, which you know is quite rare. When you get those, you take hold and you don't let go, kind of thing.
It's a blessing, isn't
it really is, yeah.
You cast, obviously. What would you say are your standouts?
Attention to detail is my really big thing, and I'm trying to teach that now, because if you have an audition for a big show and you've only got a week or 2 rehearsal, you don't have the time to go back and teach the detail. So when dancers come in and they're making it their own, that's great, freestyle, or if you say make this your own, you know, add whatever flavour you want here, but there's other times where it just has to be the way it's taught, and so that's a really big thing I'm trying to pass on now. There's no one like you, so harness what you have and work hard with what the tools you've been given, and sort of know which lane you're running in. And the more you can get your head around that, the more I think you'll have less disappointment with why did she get it, why did they get it, why are they working, why aren't I working? You know, there's such a mental conversation going on in your head sometimes, and you might walk in the room and do the best audition of your life. You may not get the job, but those people will remember you, and the next one that will come up. And I think when you're younger too, you don't see that foresight. Whereas when you're older, you actually go, oh, well, actually, if I had have got that, this wouldn't have happened.
Exactly.
And it aligns, you know, it really does. There's been great success. I'm proud of what I've done, and there's been a lot of knockbacks, but usually those knockbacks have meant that I've carried on to be able to do something else. I'm a big advocate to never stop going to class. I still do class every week, usually my own, but I will do the entire class. For fitness, for how your body feels strength-wise. I think when your body's been trained the way we train since such early ages, I think you have to keep it up. And also you don't know what's around the corner, because we live in this freelance kind of world. If you're in between jobs, the phone could ring at any time and you need to be raring to go. And if you haven't put that work in, you're not going to get that job, and you know that you have to keep fit. Going
into your live event credits, Associate Head of Choreographer and Staging for the opening ceremony of the Gold Coast Commonwealth Games. That would have been wonderful. Is that kind of something, an opportunity that allowed you to come back home, so to speak, as well?
I think it sort of sat out in this lovely cloud. I have been talking about moving back. I left when I was just turned 18, and coming back was a personal decision, absolutely, but knowing that such a huge event was coming to my hometown was something that really, you know, that gave me that extra push to come home. Nathan Wright, who you know, landing that brought him home and myself back to here. It was a very special project. Like incredibly special. I guess a bit of a sliding door moment that, you know, if we come home or not come home. Since coming home, so many things have evolved for me here, and you know, it is a big decision to make, moving states, and especially Sydney, sort of we think of as the hub of our industry, and since moving back, it's I feel like now Queensland's the hub.
It is, because you're also working on the Elvis film.
Another incredible opportunity that I never thought would happen. It's just been, I pinch myself daily. So working with Baz and all the incredible team, they're all, you know, these amazing talents.
Must be so inspiring to be around.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. You are in a room with him and all the other people, all the heads of the departments are the best of the best, and you leave with that feeling of I'm so inspired.
A few other things, the Royal Edinburgh military tattoo in Sydney with an associate choreographer.
Yeah, that was this time last year. The Royal Edinburgh Military Tattoo is usually in Edinburgh. They take a show occasionally around the world. The last one was in Melbourne in 2016. I was approached to help with Arlene, who does all the Scottish dancing. I was brought on to help facilitate all of their dancers, as well as have 3 professional dancers and some Australian contingent, bring what they had with their show and make it, the field of play was about 4 or 5 times larger than what they're used to.
Yeah,
so
right.
It was fantastic. Yeah, it was really epic.
And now another live event that you were associated with is creating the choreography for the Hope segment.
That was 3 years ago now. There was a small segment that they needed, this beautiful dancing, and they needed to embellish the incredible background of what they were filming. We got to work on green screen, and the final product was absolutely beautiful. And then we were fortunate enough to get mostly the same people, but we all went over for about 11 days to Baku. Some of the dancers still say it's one of their favourite jobs they've ever done, just because, it was just a place I never thought I'd go to.
You've also been involved in casting for television commercials with Redken, Tesla, Clinique, Bonds, Burley and David Jones.
Yeah.
What's the process? You have to work with the brands or with specific casting directors to cast the dancers that you're needing?
Yeah, I think it's different depending what job it is. There's been a few big hair expos or big corporate jobs, and sometimes it is ring the agent because you know exactly who fits that bill.
Yep.
And other times it's hold an audition. But yeah, you're definitely talking to the stylists, creative directors, and working out who fits their brand. If you're asked to do, whatever their opening number is, that they fit those skill sets as well. Usually the creative director will have a very clear vision. Depending on who that is, they're always open to, a great suggestion, but it's really dependent on what job.
The Gold Coast has grown and expanded so much in later time, but during the time of, I know when I trained and yourself, moving to Sydney, Melbourne and then London, it's a big deal, isn't it?
It really is. I think because of the platform we have now with YouTube and accessibility with our phones and Instagram and everything, it's brought us all closer in that sense. But so many amazing dancers have trained here and come from Queensland as a whole, not just the Gold Coast.
Yep.
And I think that's because we do have that country town mentality, and the big smoke is so, almost unachievable, so you work so
I was
hard.
about to say, I feel like it encourages you to go, well, I need to prove
be,
myself more so that I can make it
100%.
further.
Yeah. And we had people fly here. I remember doing, odd workshops, so I'd always go and see the shows at QPAC and, all that inspiration. I remember landing the first day in Melbourne, and I think I knew one person, and I remember standing outside Tony Bartuccio's and with my resume, completely nervous and just ready to take on the world, but also feeling like I was engulfed by this huge industry and huge city. And I remember going in, I think I took 10 classes a week when I first moved in there, just trying to get seen by as many people as possible, where nowadays, you can post a video and get seen by everyone. So it's definitely changed in that way.
Moving from a dancer to assistant choreographer and then head choreographer, take us on that journey a little bit.
I think I started probably a little later than some. Everyone's got their own journey. Assisting, I probably started late 20s. I just didn't want to get off the stage. I still don't, to be completely honest with you.
I think when it's there, it's there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and I have, many friends that went to the other side quicker or have, evolved into completely in the industry still, but amazing paths and worked their way up. I just didn't want to get off those boards, I just didn't. So I took my time.
Why not?
I still, almost some days think I'm still a dancer, which I'll always be a dancer, but I sometimes even struggle to say I'm a choreographer because I genuinely still feel like I'm a dancer. Yeah. One of my most standout moments, and I remember I was so emotional about it. So I was almost 35 and Kelly rang to say I'm doing Carmen on the harbour down in Sydney, and I was like, whew, I don't know about this. mentally still Kate the dancer. I'm a mum. I've given birth, you know. So she said, I just know that you can do this.
Yeah.
And so I did, and I remember the opening night, but I also really remember the closing night. I remember thinking, this could be it. Like, this is the last time I'll probably dance like this.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was an incredible moment. Yeah. I feel like the younger generation, they wouldn't really listen to what happens once as a female, and you do have kids and stepping out of the industry. Yeah. It's mentally really tough. And even if it's not just having children, it's just stepping out of the industry or stepping off the stage.
Absolutely.
We don't talk about that. A very close friend has said to me, you need to deal with this like it's like a death, because
grieving.
It is.
Yeah.
You have to grieve the life you've known. It's not over. It can only get better. Like, it's not all negative.
Yeah.
But you do need to give it that moment, or I think you'll carry it on, and maybe you won't embellish what you're changing into. And that was amazing advice. It's finding that loss and that grieving of who I was since I was 3. For me now, even now with COVID and the life we're living, the young generation coming out, I'm like, embellish your other skills. It doesn't have to be out of the industry, but if you have that costume design, if you love styling, or if you like any other little thing that you feel like that could be your little fire that goes along with your performing, start to embrace it. Start to embrace it now.
Touching base on some of your other musical experiences, Fame I know was a big one for you.
Yeah, it was. I was 19 when I auditioned for Fame and had not lived in Melbourne very long, so I was still sort of treading those boards. And I remember lining up outside the Palais in St Kilda, very long line down the street, and it was David Atkins directing and Kelly Abbey starring and choreographing. It was a huge audition process, I remember, and I remember getting a call to do the callbacks. We got flown to Sydney. Getting the call, I was actually in Hong Kong on a corporate job, and I jumped on the bed like a crazy person when I got told that I got it. So some of my best friends were in that show, and we toured for 12 months around Australia and then went over to Asia for another 3 months. And like Kelly, I saw as, you know, a huge mentor, and dancing, you know, off her shoulder every night. Working with David, who I'd looked up to since Seagulls, you know, when I was watching him with his electric legs and Dancing Man, and just, you know, I think that's really important, sort of really educating people on who was before us, because I had such, like, they were icons to me. Yeah, and it really gives you that
influence.
Yeah, that
and desire, and
you watch what path they've taken, and it's someone to, you know, really follow. Yeah, that was a huge turning point for me, Fame.
Kate, we have a little fun segment part
God.
of our show Arts Talk TV. It's called the Shutter Speed Challenge.
Okay.
So the last song you listened to?
Katy Perry, Daisies, on the way to school this morning. It's on repeat with my kids,
Favourite. What does creativity mean to you?
Feeds my soul.
Person you'd most like to meet?
Justin Timberlake.
What would you ask him?
Would you marry me?
Sorry, hubby.
Hubby knows. He knows. He's well aware.
No getting away from that.
No.
Last piece of art that really affected you?
You know, Beyonce's recent video she put out, that I was like, wow, incredible.
If you had to label creativity with a colour, what colour would you choose?
Yellow.
What would you miss most about the arts?
Everything.
What's on your bedside table?
At the moment, a packing box and a clock, because I'm moving house.
Fun times. What chore do you most dislike doing? Packing.
Yeah, packing my house, yeah, totally.
In one word, what does the arts mean to you?
Joyful.
Kate Wormald, I feel so privileged to have shared the couch with you and taken on board all the information you've offered and your experience, just your beautiful energy. Thank you so much for being on the show. We so appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. It's been beautiful. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us. We look forward to seeing you at our next episode.